Good evening, everyone, and blessed be. I am your host, Aries StarWind, and this is another episode of Readings at the Witching Hour. We're going to continue our reading of the book Wiccan Beliefs and Practices with Rituals for Solitaries and Covens by author Gary Cantrell. We're going to continue in the chapter Getting Started in Wicca, and the next section is Clothing and Adornments. The type of clothing you elect to wear is totally up to you. If you prefer to work skyclad, that is also your choice. Skyclad meaning in the nude. Working skyclad in even a small coven environment may not always be practical, since each member must fully agree and be aware of which rituals will be performed skyclad beforehand. No surprises. I have a hooded, floor-length robe of forest green that I wear for high Sabbaths and other special occasions such as consecrations or initiations. Other than that, our coven members normally work in street clothes that reflect the colors of the season or of the Sabbath. You can wear whatever jewelry you prefer. Our members normally wear a pentacle necklace in a circle, and I always wear my pentacle ring regardless of where I am. Robes and cloaks can be purchased from the larger craft stores or even through mail order. If you want to go further and really dress for the occasion, then medieval and even classical type shirts, pants, and footwear can be purchased from any museum replica store. Several of these outlets are included in Appendix D. Preparation for rituals and rites. Before any ritual or rite is conducted, an appropriate area must be prepared. This is known as casting the circle. The circle is a sacred space, a world between the worlds and a place without time. It is a place where you and the god and goddess will meet and communicate. It is the place of all rituals and rites, never beginning and never ending, symbolically eternal. The area you select for this function should be one in which you as a solitary, or the members in your coven can work easily and not be disturbed. If the area is outside, which is the best place to conduct your rituals, it must be free of unwanted observers and should be in a place where a little bit of noise on your part will not bother your neighbors. If inside, you may need to rearrange some furniture temporarily in order to get an area large enough for all the participants to fit into comfortably. If at all possible, the same area should be used for all your ritual and rite workings. If you are working as a solitary, a space as small as 3 feet in diameter will probably be sufficient. If you have a coven or up to about 6 people, you will need an area large enough to inscribe a sacred circle of either 9 or 12 feet in diameter. The basic tools you will need for almost any ritual include the god and goddess candles, an altar candle, the 4 quarter candles, a salt and water dish, an incense burner or holder, the athame of the high priest and high priestess, and possibly your Book of Shadows. Each covener will have his or her own athame if possible, and a cauldron may be included for some of the rituals. If extensive readings are to be done, such as having someone read the charge of the goddess as part of the ritual, a reading candle would also be appropriate. The cake and ale rite is typically part of each Sabbath and Esbit ritual, and these materials should be prepared and placed on plates near the altar before the ritual starts, but out of the way so that they do not get stepped on or kicked over during the circle casting. It is also a good idea for the high priestess and high priest to discuss the purpose of the ritual with the coveners before it begins, so that all participants understand what will be done, and individuals should be assigned to call and release each of the quarters. Your coven will hopefully be large enough so that these functions can be shared, and one person will not have to take on more than one assignment. There is nothing wrong, though, with one person doing several tasks, and if you are working as a solitary, you will be doing it all yourself anyway. Purifying the area. The area of your circle should first be purified with sage in order to remove any undesirable energies or forces. Either regular sage or white sage can be used. Both types are relatively inexpensive and are usually available from any craft shop. Sage is bound in a small bundle about 6 inches or so in length, and when lit gives off a considerable amount of relatively strong smoke. If you are working inside, it may be a good idea not to light the entire sage bundle. Just light one corner of the bundle, or possibly disable your smoke detector if it is in the same room as the circle, since the sage smoke might activate it. I usually do not feel it necessary to purify the circle each time I cast it if the circle is being cast repeatedly in the same area. But the choice is yours, and it does no harm to purify each time if you so desire. Begin by standing in the center of your circle for a few seconds, with the smoking sage bundle extended over your head as you spin slowly daisal, meaning in a clockwise direction, pronounced daisal or jaisal 3 times. Then walk slowly in a spiral in a daisal direction until you spiral out and reach the perimeter of the proposed circle area, ending your spiral at the east quarter. Each quarter of the circle should then be addressed with the smoking sage bundle, beginning with the east and again moving daisal. Pause briefly at each quarter, moving the sage bundle up and down several times, then holding it at arm's length over your head for a few seconds before moving to the next quarter. Each participant should then be purified by briefly moving the smoking sage up and down in close proximity to the body. If you are working alone, simply move the sage around your body once or twice to purify yourself. When the purification is finished, the sage bundle can be snuffed out by grinding the smoke and gently in your cauldron or in a non-flammable dish. The bundle can be relit and reused numerous times and can last for many months. Set up your altar at the east side of the circle. On it, place the god and goddess candles, salt and water dishes, athames, and high priestess and high priest, and an incense holder. If you are working in a covered environment, the high priestess should place her athame by the goddess candle, and the high priest should place his athame by the god candle, or both athames can be placed on the altar pentagram. Place the quarter candles on the perimeter of your circle at each cardinal point of the compass. Yellow at the east, red at the south, blue at the west, and green at the north. Casting the circle. The actual casting of the circle is typically done by the high priestess, but the high priest can also perform this function, and any consecrated covenor can call the quarters. Light the incense of all the candles, always lighting the goddess candle first. Stand in the center of your circle, feet spread slightly, holding your athame in your right hand with arms at your sides. Take your time until you feel calm, in control, and at peace with our Lord and Lady. Then, holding your athame firmly in both hands, raise it high above your head. Hold this position for as long as needed until you feel time is right. Then lower the athame so that it is pointing at the floor, at the east point of your inner circle perimeter. Move to the east quarter candle, and, with your athame pointing at the circle's perimeter, slowly walk daisal around the entire circumference of the circle until you are back at the east starting point. You have now inscribed the boundaries of the circle, while understanding that the circle is in reality a sphere. It is a 3-dimensional space and surrounds you above and below. The inscribed circle you have drawn is only the theoretical boundary line on the surface of your working area. Move to the altar and bless the salt and water by placing the point of your athame in each individually as they recite the following words. I consecrate this salt, that it may be used in my sacred circle. I bless this water, that it may be used in my sacred circle. Mix 3 pinches of salt in the water and stir 9 times with your athame, 3 stirs for each pinch of salt. Briefly lift the container and hold it over the altar. Then, starting in the east and moving dasal, sprinkle the salted water around the perimeter of the circle. Replace the salted water dish on the altar and pick up the smoking incense and briefly hold it over the altar. Again, starting in the east and moving dasal, carry the incense around the full perimeter of the circle. The circle has now been purified with sage, marked and consecrated with earth, water, fire, and air. It is now time to call the quarters. I should point out that in some traditions, it is customary to have all participants already inside the space designated to be the cast circle before the casting is even begun. In others, it is customary for the high priestess to mark the circle boundary with her athame, purify it with salted water and incense, and then admit all coveners one by one. After all coveners have been admitted, the quarters are called and the circle cast is complete. Whichever way you choose to cast your circle is really immaterial, but I recommend that you be consistent. If you elect to mark the circle first and then admit the rest of the practitioners, then stick with that technique for all rites and rituals. If you elect to admit others after the circle has been cast, the high priestess should first admit the high priest. This is done by the priestess cutting and opening in the circle boundary as described in the section temporarily opening and closing the circle, later in this chapter. She then extends her right hand to him and brings him into the circle with a brief kiss as the two quickly execute a circular turn around each other. The priest then brings in the next female covener in a like manner, with that covener then bringing in the next male, as everyone alternates between the sexes. If there is an unequal number of men and women, the high priest or high priestess will return to the edge of the marked circle to bring in whoever may be left. After all have entered, the high priestess closes the circle. Calling the quarters. This rite has many names, depending on the tradition. Calling the quarters, invoking the guardians, calling the watchers or watchtowers, invoking the old ones, all mean the same thing. You are inviting into your circle the spirits of the 4 elemental realms of earth, air, fire, and water. They are your protectors, your guides, your witnesses, and your guardians. It is important when invoking or calling them to visualize the element that each represents. When calling the east, the element of air, it would be appropriate to think of gentle breezes clearing away confusion and bringing clarity. When calling the south, the element of fire, it would be appropriate to think of heat and warmth, dispelling darkness and bringing light, energy, or affection. When calling the west, the element of water, it would be appropriate to think of cool streams, bringing the water of life, cleansing and nurturing. And when calling the north, the element of earth, it would be appropriate to think of moss-covered earth and tall trees, bringing soundness of thought and a firm grounding in your spiritual awareness. I prefer to identify this rite simply as calling the quarters. Appendix C lists several interactions that can be used, but the following paragraphs give a general description of the process. Stand or kneel facing the east quarter. Raise your right hand and with your athame, mark a pentagram in the air in front of you, and then mark a circle around the pentagram. Draw the pentagram beginning and ending at the top of the spirit point, and draw the circle in a clockwise direction. Raise the palm of your left hand outward toward the east, and lower your right hand so that your athame points to the quarter candle at the perimeter of the circle. Your raised left hand is your receiving hand, and with it you are receiving the element or the guardian. Your right hand with the athame is your projecting hand, and with it you are directing the element or guardian to take a place at your circle. Recite the following words. Spirit of the East, Ancient One of the Air, I ask you to join with us. Be with us and guard us in our circle. Blessed be, Spirit. Move Daisel to the remaining points of the compass, and at each one recite the same phrase, changing the compass point and the element name. Spirit of the South, Ancient One of Fire, I ask you to join with us. Be with us and guard us in our circle. Blessed be, circle. Spirit of the West, Ancient One of Water, I ask you to join with us. Be with us and guard us in our circle. Blessed be, Spirit. Spirit of the North, Ancient One of the Earth, I ask you to join with us. Be with us and guard us in your circle. Blessed be, Spirit. Typically, all members of the coven stand or kneel together and all turn to face each quarter, as it is called. The area has now been purified, the circle has been cast, and the quarters called. Once this rite has been completed, no one should step across the circle boundary to enter or leave the sacred space without good reason and without a proper opening and reclosing of the circle. The action to accomplish this is described in the section temporarily opening and closing the circle later in this chapter. You are now ready to invoke the god and goddess and begin the ritual. What an excellent read that was. I mean, that's pretty much as informative as it can get for casting a circle, and because it can be pretty complex, and anything you do, you should probably do it right. This is, it's a guideline. So anybody who is casting their circle, this doesn't have to be something that's always has to be done to the point and you have to worry about making mistakes, because the Lord and Lady, they know your intentions, and you're not going to be punished for making a small mistake here and there. It'll take practice, and the more and more you do it, the more and more comfortable you'll become, and it'll end up being second nature to you, like putting on a seatbelt, basically. So like I said, that was an excellent read for the night. The next section tomorrow is going to be actually invoking the god and goddess. So that'll be the next step in our ritual process, and definitely can't wait to read about that as well with everybody. So hope everybody enjoyed the read tonight. God is blessed, blessed be, and I will see you all tomorrow.